Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Poker Vlog. Today we are going to a new location here in Springfield, Missouri, playing in a cash game. It's going to be 1-2, $500 max buy-in, so a little bit more in our comfort range than that 1K max buy-in, super deep 1-2. This is just a fairly deep 1-2. Pretty excited to be playing in this game. Hopefully we can have a good session. We need to bounce back after running pretty freaking bad last time out and losing 500 bucks. So hopefully this will be a turnaround session. Thanks everybody for watching. We just passed 2,600 subscribers this morning. That's insane. Can't believe there are 2,600 people that press that subscribe button. It's completely free. It's a great way to support the channel. It's that big red button down below the screen. I have noticed that about 76% of the people, as you can see from the graphic on the screen, who watch my videos are not subscribed. So if you enjoy the content at all, please go ahead and click that subscribe button. You can turn on notifications if you hit that little bell that's next to it, and you'll get a notification every time I post a new video. If you subscribe, you're not going to get bothered in any way. It's just more likely to recommend the video on your home screen, or you can easily find my channel just by clicking that little button on the side of the screen where it says Kenny G Poker. All right, guys, time to jump into the action. Playing a 1-2 session, like I said. Let's get after it.
Listen, what kind of comps do you need? I don't know.
Getting into the action here with the table footage, looking down at pocket threes from the button, starting this hand off with about $500. Bringing you guys the table footage, pretty excited to keep doing this. The lighting's a little bit weird in this new location, so we'll get that figured out before too long. Hopefully, the light source is all coming from the right-hand side of the screen for you guys, so the shadows can be a little bit tricky. Anyway, middle position opens this one up to $12. We decide to go ahead and make the call here, see if we can flop a set. Off to see a flop four ways. Flop comes down King 9-5 with 2 spades and 1 heart. So not our favorite flop. Obviously, not flopping a set here pretty much means no bet. So we are just going to go ahead and check fold this one. So very quickly, after that pocket threes hand, we are in middle position with about $480, and we look down at King Queen of Diamonds. So a very pretty hand. Starting things off about 480 bucks. Like I said, small blind calls, big blind calls, the button straddle, and the under the gun player makes it $20 to go. Under the gun plus 1 calls. I decide to just go ahead and make the call here. I think I could definitely 3-bet this some percentage of the time, but I don't think there's any reason to get too carried away. The button calls and the small blind also calls, so we're going extremely multi-way to this flop. Flop comes down a pretty interesting and not terrible one for us. The flop is king high with 2 spades and 1 diamond. So we're not too disappointed to flop. Top pair, very good kicker. The action checks the under the gun player, who bets out $60. I go ahead and make the call after the action folds to me and all the other players fold. So I don't think that I have too many options here. Obviously I can still be in some trouble, but feeling pretty good with top pair, decent kicker. The turn comes down on the Jack of Hearts. So pairing the Jack, I think that should look like a great card for me and a terrible card for my opponent. Under the gun goes ahead and shoves all in for his last $90 here. So I'm not really sure what I should be doing. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys listen to the table audio here on this one, because what I do becomes very apparent.
How much is it? Like 80? I guess you have ace king. I'll call. Well, that makes me feel smart.
Yep, sure enough, just like I said, he had ace king. We end up losing this one. Pretty unfortunate. Not what we were looking for. Getting off to a pretty bad start, losing a very reasonable sized pot. Unfortunately, I don't have hand footage on the rest of these hands. I've been using just my one phone to take video and to write notes. So for future use, I think I'm just going to take one of my old phones just to take notes on, so that way I can have my new phone with a good camera to always get hand footage. So in this one, we looked at Queen Jack of Hearts from the cutoff. We're starting this hand off with about $300. The Storyteller in the big blind opens up to $17, kind of a weird sizing, not really sure what that means. Action folds to me. I go ahead and make the call. So we are off to see a flop with a very reasonable hand. Could have 3-bet here, but since we're down to like $300, not necessarily trying to 3-bet Queen Jack against somebody who's going to be trying to play for stacks all the time, pretty much. Flop comes down a very good one for me. The flop is 10-9-4 with 1 heart. So we go ahead and flop the open-ended draw to the nuts with the backdoor flush draw and 2 overcards. So pretty good. Not going to be complaining here at all. The big blind checks, and I decided to go ahead and lead out here for $35. Now, I don't know if I really like this. I think I could maybe just check back and play it more slowly and a little bit more trappily if I hit my draw. Anyway, he makes the call, so we are off to see a turn, which comes down the 7 of diamonds. So we don't hit our straight, we do not hit our pair, and we do not have the flush draw anymore at all. So the big blind checks, and I decided to go ahead and keep telling the story that I started off with. I will be calling with a lot of 10s here pre-flop, and then I don't know if I'll really be betting them on the flop though, so I guess that's kind of a problem. So anyway, it seems like not that terrible of an idea, and I bet out $60. Well, he sniffs this one out pretty quick, guys. He doesn't think about it for too long before just shipping it in for all the money. Yeah, obviously no decision to be made here. Just have to lay it down. Kind of sucks. Feel like I played this hand pretty bad. On to the next one. So after a good little bit of waiting, we actually exhibit some patience, which I'm pretty happy with. We look down at the best hand ever created. We've got pocket aces, under the gun +1, starting this hand off with about $190. Under the gun, player we're going to call the Colonel because, well, let's be honest, guys, he looks like the Colonel. Limps. I go ahead and make it $17 once it gets to me, and it folds around to the under the gun player who ends up making the call. So it's just me against the Colonel, head to a flop, which comes down a pretty disgusting one for pocket aces. The flop is 8-7-6 with 2 hearts. So yeah, not what you want to see when you're playing aces against someone who limp called your open. So anyway, he checks to me. I don't think I have too much of a decision here. I think I just have to go ahead and bet it. I put out $25 and he insta folds. So yeah, no value there, no money there. Not any idea what he could have had. We take it down. Not what you're trying to do with aces in a game that was playing huge. A little bit after that pocket aces hand, a good while later, not super long, I look down at pocket kings from the cutoff, starting this hand with about $200. The low jack, who's the guy who runs the game, opens it up to $20. Action gets to me. Obviously, we're going to be putting in a raise here, and I make it $60. A little bit on the small side. Maybe I should have gone bigger. I'm not really sure. I don't think 3x is terrible in this spot. So some weirdness ensues. While he is thinking about what he's going to do, I don't even think he's realized that the action's got to him at this point. Someone is bringing chips to the table and drops $120 in red $5 chips on the floor. They go everywhere. It's loud. There are chips all over the place. So everybody's just kind of trying to pick up the chips and hand them back to the person. Whole crazy mess goes on for at least a minute or so while I'm just sitting there waiting to see what this player is going to do. He realizes that it's his turn to act and he folds, not even realizing that he was the one who had opened the action in this pot. So we win the minimum basically with pocket kings. I think we would have definitely gotten another $40. I mean, obviously we could have lost the hand or anything weird could have ensued, but pretty annoying to have something like that happen and mess up us having pocket kings. A little bit later, we play one of the more interesting hands of the session. I look down at ace-10 offsuit from the hijack. I'm starting this hand with about $220. Under the gun +1 opens to 12. Now, this is a player who I'm playing with for the first time, but he's been exhibiting some pretty obvious sizing tells. He's definitely changing the amounts that he's betting based on, opening for based on his holdings. It's very odd. It's kind of an amateur mistake. You don't see it that often anymore, but fairly often in live games. So anyway, pretty obvious spot for me to go ahead and put in the call against what I think is going to be a pretty light range. The Storyteller calls also in the big blind. So we are off to see this flop three-handed. Flop comes down A7-4 rainbow. So pretty okay with that. There was one diamond on the flop, so that comes into play a little bit later. Under the gun +1 bets $20 as a pretty standard continuation bet, although a pretty small sizing given the size of the pot now. I'm definitely going to be making the call here in the big blind. The Storyteller calls as well. So we're off to see a turn, which comes down the 6 of diamonds. So that completes a lot of straight draws and it puts a backdoor flush out there. So fairly interesting spot, especially when under the gun +1 checks. I think I'm going to go ahead and check here. I've obviously underwrapped my hand pretty aggressively. And yeah, I think we can find a way to play this profitably with a check. The The storyteller in the big blind decides that he's had enough of these shenanigans in his hand and bets out $110, which would put me almost all in. Under the gun +1 folds, and I go into the tank. Now, with how much I've under-repped my hand, I'm not really sure what he can have here that he's going to be calling pre-flop, in playing this way on the flop that I'm going to be behind. He's definitely a player that is good enough to be making moves, so I definitely think this is a spot that I can get it in here pretty favorably. So after thinking about it for a while, I'm talking to him a little bit, I decide to make the call. He says good call. River comes down to 2 of hearts, so kind of a brick. We both check. We didn't actually both check. I just didn't realize that I had more money in my stack. I don't think he did either. I think I missed out on like $30 worth of value here, so that's definitely a mistake, but oh well. I flip over my hand and he shows us an ace. Apparently he had an ace and no kicker, so we take this one down. Feel pretty good about sniffing out that semi-bluff, I guess, and we built our stack back up a little bit. In the very next hand, after we make that nice call down with ace-10, we're still stacking our chips up when we look down at pocket aces. We got pocket aces in the cutoff once again, starting this hand with about $400, so we're almost back to even. I go ahead and 3-bet over the player who is running the game's open. The storyteller calls and the initial opener makes the call. So we're all in here for $60 each. Pretty big pot is brewing. The flop comes down Queen Jack 6 rainbow. So not the cleanest flop ever for us, but pretty good. Really, you would think we would only need to be super worried about hands like, I don't really know, like queens and jacks pretty much is the bulk of the range that I would be worried about. The initial raiser checks. I go ahead and bet $130, and the storyteller, without thinking about it for all that long, shoves all in. Now, I don't really know what I can be doing here. He could have a straight draw. He could definitely have ace queen. I don't think he'd be doing this with ace jack. I think he could have king queen some amount of the time. He's a fairly loose player and fairly aggressive. So there's definitely a good chunk of the time that I'm going to be ahead here. Yeah, I don't think about it for too long before making the call. He shows us queen jack, but before he shows us queen jack, we decide to run it once. Yeah, I just thought I was ahead. Definitely was down to just run it once. Obviously, when he flips over queen jack, we are in terrible shape. We're looking for an ace or for the board to pair. Yeah. So, of course, we see a brick turn and a brick on the river, and we are busted. We lose $500 in this session once again. Very disappointing. Not at all how we wanted it to go. We go ahead and leave, say that it was, we'd say it was fun, but it actually wasn't very much fun. Get outside, give a fence post that we're walking by a little love tap, and get to the car, calm down a little bit, head on home. Very disappointed with how the session went. Didn't record anything on the way home. Kind of dark, obviously, and just very tilted about how this all went. Yeah, just sucked. Another sucky session. 2 in a row. Not what we were looking for. Oh well. Happy that we got some table footage once again. Happy that we have a plan to make sure we get all the table footage in subsequent episodes. Thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. The video has been going nuts lately. Don't forget to subscribe. I know a lot of the people who watch my videos aren't subscribed. I think the YouTube was saying somewhere around 80% or so are not subscribed. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. It's a free way to support the channel. You get a notification or something every time I post a video. And give me a thumbs up. It helps the channel to grow. And yeah, it's just really great and obviously completely free. So thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.